Welcome to the Marketing for Business podcast. This is your host, Scott Wilson. Mr. Kevin Eder, welcome to the Marketing for Business podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
Mate, I'm excited to have you here. I've known you for a while now, and you've definitely made an impact on my business, both indirectly and directly, of some of the advice that you've given me over the years. I think I first met you for an acquaintance, Hamish Conway.
Correct, you did.
Yeah, and you started mentoring my business when I was probably a good 10 years ago now.
I think all of that. Yeah, absolutely. I do remember.
Yeah, and from there I've gone on to do a few other things, but we've always stayed in touch, and obviously now very grateful that we get to look after your marketing for Tradestaff and Tradestaff workwear. Today I wanted to talk to you though about your business and the fact that you started in 1996 and you've grown it to a nationwide business, very, very successful. And I want to talk about some things. I want to talk about your business and the success you've had. I also want to talk about marketing, and I also want to talk about your mindset. And I've got a really cool question that I want other people to hear, because it's something that you taught me and it's helped me a lot in my business. So let's go back to 1996. It's a few years ago. How did you get started? Where did the idea come from?
Well, I guess like a lot of Kiwi businesses, they started from the fact that I was working in the industry, but for a large player and a large international player, and had some success there. But I've never really been a corporate guy, and so basically it got to the stage where probably I'd outgrown them and they'd outgrown me, or probably more I'd outgrown them. So I looked to go out and do it on my own.
Yep.
At that time, everybody laughed at me, particularly from the company, the fact that I thought I could do it on my own. No one was really concentrating just on industrial recruitment.
Yeah.
The agency I worked for was across all industry. But anyway, basically, as it happens when you leave a company like that, basically you're just excommunicated. And so I had a stand-down period of 3 months. I went back to my old trade, working as an electrician, doing other things. And then after 3 months, I put a little ad in the local paper saying I was looking for workers, and it was quite astonishing. I had old clients ringing me up saying that they thought I was dead, and so basically they were rapt to hear I was alive, but also rapt to hear that I was doing my own thing.
Yeah.
And so my first 5 or 6 clients were people that contacted me when I put an ad in the paper advertising for labourers and carpenters. And the really good thing is, of those 5 clients, 4 of them are still clients today,
Wow.
26 years later.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and so when I started, it was what I wanted to do was, I knew that I was good at what I was doing. I just wanted it to be without all the corporate bullshit, basically. And so
that first advert that you ran though, so were you looking for other tradespeople, or were you looking for clients that you could find jobs for, or was it just...
Well, when you're running a temp agency, it's very much the chicken and the egg.
Yep.
You are looking for workers because that's your product, but also you have to have clients. Where are you going to send them? So in that instance, I rather than just going to see clients first up and saying, "Hey, I've now got this agency," I thought it made a lot more sense if I actually had some workers and I could go and talk to them about that. Right.
Yeah.
So in that instance, I was just looking to hire 4 or 5 good people, and then I would go and try and talk to the clients about utilising my agency.
And back then, what was the job market like for people?
It was the polar opposite of what it is today, and it's pretty funny, because today's recruitment consultant pretty much these days could almost just be an order taker, because today the market is such that we have literally hundreds of jobs around the country that we just can't fill. In those days, unemployment was 9.5%.
Yeah.
So, here's some funny-looking guy knocking on a business door saying, "Hey, you should be using me. I can help you out with the staffing." And I've got the clients laughing at me, telling me that they've got, at least 10 staff of their own they'd like to get rid of. So it was very much about selling in those days.
Yeah.
And like I say, the polar opposite of today, but the same business principles apply.
And did you pick that niche on Pacific? Did you go, "Look, I'm going to go for the trade type"?
It's what I was doing at the other agency. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the name?
Tradestaff?
Yeah.
Very funny, actually. Back in those days, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but back in those days, you had to actually contact the company's office to form a company. It wasn't like it all is now. And so I'd come up with the name Tempstaff, and it was a registered company in Wellington somewhere, not operating as Tempstaff, but that was the name of the company. And so the lady at the company's office, when we were chatting, she was saying, well, you can't have that. And she's going, what are you going to do? And I'm like, well, I'm going to put like tradespeople into jobs and stuff like that. And she went, what about Tradestaff? And I went, oh yeah, that'll do. And away we went from there. So there's an enormous amount of research and marketing.
Yeah.
No, not at all. So the lady just came up with a name, and I thought that worked. And away we went.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, the name's been interesting actually, because it defines us in a good and bad way. Obviously, if you're thinking of tradespeople, then the name tells you everything you need to know. But in actual fact, it has limited us at times as well, in that that some clients don't look at us for maybe factory work or manufacturing work or anything other than trades. So we've tended to be pigeonholed at times into just a trades agency, which has been a negative. But the positive is that I know we are the first port of call most instances when people are coming to the market and looking for tradespeople.
So you've lady gives you the name, and you're away to the races. You got your first few staff there. You're in an office in Sydenham.
Yeah, well, office. Yeah, I was working in a room in an old converted warehouse.
Wow.
In actual fact, the first month it wasn't ready, and so I actually worked across the road in a corner desk in a manufacturing facility. A friend of a friend lent me a desk, and away I went. You have to remember too, 1996, I didn't even really know how to use a computer. The first couple of weeks was spent basically playing solitaire, so I could get used to using a mouse and doing those kind of things.
So I find this really interesting because were you focused then just okay, to make this work, I'm just going to go out and sell? Was that your, like, where is your thinking? Are you thinking, hey, I'm going to have a nationwide business at this time, or are you just thinking, right, where am I going with this? Did you have a plan?
No, far from it. I'd love to say that there was a great big business plan, but no, that wasn't the case. Look, I've always been kind of a confident guy who's always known that I can make my own way. But at that stage, married, 2 children under 3, or under 4, and really I was just, working my butt off on my own. So, it wasn't a cast of thousands by any stretch of the imagination, Scott. It was just me. I did the payroll, I did the invoicing, I did the sales, I was the cleaning lady, I did the whole shebang basically. And, the banking, the whole lot. So really it was just about building a business that was sustainable, for my family. And again, trying not to be corporate, trying to be a bit different and, not necessarily loose, but certainly a lot looser than I'd been allowed to be in the other company. And
do you think that's where the demand started to come from, because they saw you as different, as someone maybe who even probably cared a little bit more because you're out there in their face, talking to them, helping them, that kind of allowed you to grow? There was no real restrictions on who you were as a person?
Yeah, very much. Like, I think also, the number 1 rule of sales is turn up, right?
Yeah.
And basically, when I was sitting in an office on my own, it was pretty boring. So once I'd got the banking and everything done, I was just on the road. The joys of having a cell phone that I, all on my own, that I was allowed to use. And so it didn't really matter whether I was in the office or not. So, I was going around some of the sites, at least 2 and 3 times a week, sometimes daily. And the hungriest hound always wins, right? So I was on the sites. I was visiting clients and just picked up the business from there.
Yeah, and building those relationships. So it's astonishing, like, to hear that 26 years later you've got 4 of those still clients of yours. What are some of the things that you've done over the years to keep those relationships going?
Well, in the early days, obviously it was all about me and the relationship. But then as the business grew, it's a lot less about me. I'm friends with some of those clients, but 26 years is a long time. A lot of people have come and gone. The 5th client closed down, by the way, so that's why we're only 4 out of 5. But as much as anything, one of the things that we do talk about in our business a lot is what we call our foundation clients. And those clients on it's all database stuff and everything like that these days, but they're listed as a foundation client. Someone that was there right at the beginning. One of them, which is a very large nationwide construction company now, were completely amazing. They were so generous to me, and something I've never forgotten is the fact that I could fax them an invoice on a Tuesday morning and they would pay me that night
Wow.
for staff that I was having to pay the next day. Because the killer for agencies is cash flow, right?
Yeah.
You pay the workers each week, and then hopefully the company pays you the next week, or in some instances 2 or 3 weeks later. And when the business is growing rapidly, that cash flow lag is an absolute killer. So having Naylor Love Construction look after me, they just opened in Christchurch. They'd just branched out from Dunedin, opened in Christchurch, and I formed a relationship with their main man that still stands today. But he had organised, like I say, for them to be paying me a full 24 hours before I had to pay the workers. And if it wasn't for that, to be brutally honest, I don't know that we would have survived, or if we had survived, we certainly wouldn't have been able to grow, because that cash flow was a big deficit.
Yeah. Shows you the power of relationships, though, and I think that's a key takeaway for people, especially new business owners I meet. You talk about databases. They're always putting things in the database and that, but what about going out and seeing those people and building those relationships? And I like the fact you had foundation clients. I think that's you know that, and probably a lot of your management team know who those people are. So you take good care of those people because they've, obviously, they've done right by you over the years.
Yeah, very much. But they also get first port of call, so it's a two-way street. Every now and then, someone who's been doing business with us a long time has some, new idea, or someone new comes in and they want to, change the way in which we do business. We're pretty stuck in the fact that we don't enter into things like preferred supply agreements and all of those whiz-bang things. Basically, we do business straight up as it is. Yes, we'll give preferential treatment to people who we know and who've been good to us for a long time, but essentially we kind of the interaction is done in the manner that we set in place, the same for all of our clients.
Yeah, that's awesome. So 11 locations. Where did you go? You started Christchurch. Where'd you go next? And how did you grow those location bases?
So after about 14 months, the business was going absolutely gangbusters. I had around 100 workers out every day working. And like I say, I was the banker, the payroll girl, the whole shebang, right? And basically, I just couldn't keep up. So I stuck an ad in the newspaper calling for a needle in a haystack, and basically gave the what the job description was. I got absolutely smoked with applicants, 200 and something applicants.
Wow.
And I got about halfway through reading them, and I was just too busy, actually. Ironic, recruitment agency too busy to hire for itself. And so about a month later, I put another ad in the newspaper saying, hey, the needle in a haystack, I haven't forgotten, I'm just too damn busy, I will get to it. And a lady rang me and said, hey, or actually she faxed me, which was pretty funny, and said, I haven't forgotten you, I hope you haven't forgotten me, I think I'm perfect for this job, how about we just have an interview? And anyway, I interviewed her. That, of course, was Janice McNabb.
Wow.
Who's been with us basically 25 years this month, has been our GM for the last 10 or 15 years. So she came on board. She was amazing right from the get-go. She was only with us a week, and I was in hospital for a week with pneumonia. And when I come back, she'd pretty much just taken over. So by 1998 or so, mid-1998, Janice had been with us for 10 months. She was essentially doing everything. We were doing the same job in Christchurch. By now, we had employed a young office junior, and then we employed another consultant. And so basically got the stage where Janice and I were starting to trip over each other a little bit. And I'd always kind of felt that even though I didn't grow up in Christchurch, I'd been in business here in Christchurch, and I kind of felt that because of those foundation clients and because of the relationships I had, that I'd probably had a bit of an easy ride into starting in Christchurch.
Yep.
So I wanted to try and do it somewhere else. So basically, Janice just took over running Christchurch, and I just tried to find somewhere that wasn't too big, that had a feel similar to Christchurch. I kind of felt like if I could do it here, I could do it somewhere similar.
Yep.
So I ended up opening in Hamilton. I'd never been to Hamilton. I went up and had a look around. And I found, to my great surprise, Christchurch was quite an established recruitment market. There was a number of agencies here at that time. When I got to Hamilton, there was essentially none.
Wow.
So I can remember going and visiting clients, and it was, I'm sure that half the businesses in the Waikato today probably still think that I invented temping, you know. And so I'd have to sit down and talk through the whole concept of how it worked and what it was about. And, you know, we did very well in Hamilton. Within about 18 months, Hamilton was a bigger business than Christchurch. It's still our biggest business unit today. And so I was visiting clients. I was living in Hamilton 3 and 4 days a week. And we had a whole bunch of clients who would say, oh, it's a pity that you're not in Tauranga. If you're in Tauranga, we would do business with you. And so anyway, one day I invited 5 of them out for lunch who had all told me that. And then I sat down with them as I was shouting them lunch and said, all right, here's the deal. If I come and open a branch in Tauranga, will you promise to do business with me?
Yeah.
They said yes. And 3 weeks later, we were opening an office in Tauranga.
That's outstanding.
So it kind of followed. There was no great plan, if you like. I just kind of followed the opportunity.
Instinct, right? Obviously, you know, and a lot of business owners have it. They have that instinct. But one of your core values is action. So it was that, like, you just, okay, let's just act. You know, like, I've listened, I've actively listened, I've heard them say, hey, if you were in Tauranga, so then you acted, get them together and put it on them, like, and they were all like, yep. Yeah,
it's interesting, you know, but I think so. I've always been kind of the guy that does act on instinct. You know, that's not always a good thing. It hasn't always worked out, but, you know, I'd much rather have a crack and it not work out than to be sitting back later and going, you know, I wish I had.
Yeah.
And so, you know, for something like that, when we were growing the business, it was exciting, it was fun. And, you know, I do remember my bank manager or my accountant, might have been my accountant, saying at the time, just be careful, you're not opening branches just for opening branches' sake.
Okay.
You know, don't get too far ahead of yourself. But everywhere we went, while there was obviously risk, you got to understand each one of these startups was a very low level thing. Like each time we started up, we only had 1 or 2 people in a small, modest office. We didn't spend any money. So we just, and in those days, you know, we were relatively risk adverse in the fact that each one of the new businesses was open as a standalone company.
Yeah.
So Tradestaff Waikato Limited, Tradestaff BOP Limited, you know. And just in case if they totally went sideways, we didn't wipe out the whole business.
Yeah.
But, and I guess, you know, when I say there was some risk, the likes of going to Tauranga was on the basis of the fact that I already had 5 clients who said they would do business with me there.
So educated, covered, you know.
Yeah. And then some of the other reasons for opening was that, you know, I was a terrible flyer in those days, and I wouldn't get on a small plane to fly to Hamilton. I would fly to Auckland and then drive down. And then after a while, I thought, well, you know, I'm at this airport, you know, 3 times a week. I might as well 4 times a week. I might as well have a branch in South Auckland and make the most of it. So, you know, we kind of grew from there. And then after a while, a business gets to a size, Scott, where, you know, Janice and I used to joke that, you know, 15 years or so ago, we used to joke that we would have been better off never have opened any other branches and just dominated the Christchurch market. We probably would have made more money because we were making more money in year 3 than we were in year 10. Because once you get to a certain size, and we certainly found this when we had 5 and 6 and 7 branches, is that your behind the scenes team, you know, has to grow and has to grow quite quickly. So here's me starting the business saying I didn't want to have this big corporate and all of the stuff goes with it. And I would guess most people looking at Tradestaff and people who maybe know the business that don't know me would think of it as a corporate. You know, I've ended up in many conversations with people who simply will tell me that there's no way I do not own Tradestaff. It's a big American company or something along those lines. You know, because it has that feel, I guess. You know, I often say that's not because of me, that's in spite of me. But my point about growing the business is you get to a stage where suddenly now you have to have an HR manager, you have to have a health and safety manager, you've got to have a financial controller. So suddenly all of that corporate stuff, you have to have it. And then because that costs so much, you've got to grow the business. So it gets to a stage where I think, you know, in business, you're better off you either need to be boutique or you need to be big. Somewhere in the middle, I just think the overheads kill you. The cash flow just gets wiped out, right?
Correct. A big takeaway from what you said just back there, though, I thought it was really, really interesting, and I think it's something that, you know, a lot of people when they're going for a job, they probably don't take enough initiative or be proactive enough. And I think that's Janice. She was proactive. Like she didn't wait for you to get back to her. She realised you were busy. And do you think the person that she is has really helped you grow and attract the right people from that aspect as well, knowing what she did?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the interesting thing about Janice is that, like I say, she's worked for us now for 25 years. Her and her husband, Craig, are great friends of ours. And I've often said, I've probably said for the last 15 years or so now that, really Janice runs the company. I'm just lucky enough to own it.
Yeah.
But that probably understates the key ingredient, which is the way in which her and I work together. A very good friend of mine explained it to me one day. He said, essentially, in this world, there's combined harvesters and there's balers, right? And what happens with most and I'm obviously a combined harvester because everywhere I go, I wreak a bit of havoc. But what happens with most combined harvesters, I suppose we could call them entrepreneurs or whatever you want to call them, but basically they hang out with other combined harvesters. So there's a million great ideas going on and nothing gets done.
Yep.
And that, that's me. I'm a great starter.
Yeah.
Whereas Janice is absolutely perfect as she's a baler.
Yeah.
And so she tidies up everything, makes it all good. Everything that comes out of the Tradestaff building around process and all of that, her and I will talk about it, but ultimately she's the one that nails it down.
Yeah.
She talks about, SOPs, which I had no idea even what it meant for quite some time until I found out that we did have standard operating practices because she'd written it all down.
Yeah.
And so what's really interesting about that relationship, and I think is really important in business that people miss, is that you have to understand what you are. Are you a combine harvester? Are you a baler, right? And the man who said to me who explained this to me about the fact that I was a combine harvester, he said the best thing about you is you surround yourself with balers.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is I looked around, I looked at my wife and I looked at Janice, my general manager, and I looked at all of the other key people, Andy and the other key people in the business, and they're balers.
Yeah.
Right. So for some time I went through a period where I felt really, really guilty because I felt like I was just dumping everything on them, come up with a great idea and hand it on. And so at one stage I actually got with them and said, look, I'm really sorry. I know I'm bloody useless. I start all this shit and then I hand it on to you. I'm sorry. And they explained to me, no, that was what I did was absolutely perfect. And they said, the good thing is that you come up with something, you hand it on, you let us do it, and then you tell everybody that we did it.
Yeah. What a skill.
Yeah, well, but for me, I feel internally grateful that they, they make me look a whole lot better than what I am, lot better than what I am. But to find that they actually liked the fact that I handed things on to them was, mind-blowing for me. And I remember saying at the time, oh my God, I've got so much more that I haven't wanted to bother you with. Be careful what you wish for.
What an awesome insight, though, as a business owner or entrepreneur running, and you're thinking you feel guilty because you're handing stuff on, but actually it's the flip side. The staff are actually loving it. That's some great insight.
Well, that's right, because if they're not naturally inquisitive or entrepreneurial or whatever you want to call it, and I hate that word, by the way. I want to talk to you about entrepreneurs because I don't like that word at all. But if you are of that mindset where you are someone who just runs into the fire, if you like, then you have to have people around you who tidy up. And I said entrepreneurs because what happens is, just as my friend said about the combine harvesters, the entrepreneurs all hang together, but it's always a talk fest. Nothing ever comes of it.
Yes.
Right? Nothing ever comes of it because they've got all the ideas in the world, but if they're anything like me, by tomorrow I'm over that idea. I've moved on. And so unless someone's there to actually implement it, then it's a waste of time.
Yeah, so true. And I think that's something you see play out. And look, unless you have a baler in the business, it's funny, I only just learnt recently about SOPs by hiring someone who's, I've got a saying, employ your weakness. And I realised I wasn't, even had a couple of conversations with you, I was like, you told me about the baler, and I was like, well, we've got a lady in our business now who is the baler, and it's a breath of fresh air. She loves it.
She loves it, and you're not agonising over the fact that things aren't going the way they should be because they tidy that up for you. Yeah.
Hey, so let's switch gears a little bit now. I just wanted to talk a little bit about your the ebbs and flows of business. And look, we're probably in the world economy. Everyone's saying there's a little bit of doom and gloom out there, and inflation's going through the roof and stuff. I wanted to talk a little bit about, because I know it's 96, you've been through a number of things. So one, the GFC. Let's talk about that now, the impact of your business, earthquakes, and then a little bit about COVID.
GFC was quite interesting. I was actually in I was actually in Europe in the middle to late part of 2007. And the first time that I actually kind of realised that we were away for 10 weeks. And I remember the first time I realised something that was going on was that we went to the Santander Bank, big bank in Spain, and the ATMs were closed, and you could go in, you could only draw out, I think, €200 at a time.
Wow.
Because the banks were running out of money. And so when I got back to New Zealand, and I got back and was greeted with a resignation letter from Janice, basically saying, look, the business had followed a pattern for 10 years where it would grow by 25 to 30% between September and December. I got back 2 weeks before Christmas and it had flatlined the day I left. And Janice, of course, was saying, well, I've completely failed, I've got to go. So I was able to tell her that, no, this thing's happening all over the world. So because I'd been away, anyway, we didn't accept the resignation. I told her not to be stupid. And so then basically because I'd been away, I looked at the business and thought, we're actually now we had branches all over the country, 10 or 12 branches all over the country, but we weren't making the same money that we were when we only had 2 branches, right? So what's happening here? Like I said, there's a lot of expense going out, but I wanted to look at it it sounds funny, but I basically worked out that the business was probably going to drop by somewhere around 10 to 15% for the next year or so if everything I read about, GFCs, and at that time they were just calling it a recession or something. If that's going to be the case, our business is probably going to drop by 10 to 15%. I don't know where that number came from, but I guessed it was that number. So I adopted a really simple principle that said if we're going to do 10% less business, then we need to make 10 or 15% more off the business we do.
Yeah.
Right?
Nice.
So I looked through, basically I worked between Christmas and New Year, came back again on about the 3rd of January. And everything was on paper in those days. We didn't have particularly good database systems or anything. So I just went through every single transaction that we'd done and worked out how much money we made per transaction. And the way that temping works is that we employ the employee, we pay their wages, their holiday pay, their public holidays, ACC, KiwiSaver, all of that stuff. And then we contract the worker onto a client. We give them a timesheet. The client fills in the timesheet. As a result of that, we then pay the temp. And we charge the client, make a margin in the middle, right? And there's, what I discovered was that an enormous amount of our business was at a margin that just didn't really reflect the work we were doing.
Yeah.
So I went through and basically put our prices up, not necessarily across the board, but all business that was operating at a lower margin. I just said, right, when we're back into gear on the 10th of January, whenever everyone came back to work, these are the new prices. That was quite traumatic. I had 2 staff resign because they weren't prepared to have that conversation with the clients. We lost a couple of clients who just, when I say lost a couple of clients, we probably lost, a dozen clients who said we were just too expensive now. And then we just had others who just got on with it. When I say we put the prices up, sometimes we said, right, it's happening in a month or so. So it was all through negotiation. So when we got to the end of the following financial year, so it'd be 08, 09, I guess, 07, 08, 09, what had happened was that we'd done around 13% less business less chargeable hours than we'd done previously. But our GP, our gross profit off that business, was actually the same as what it had been previously.
Nice.
So it really taught us at that time that, we're not an agency that's interested particularly in the low margin work. So I mentioned before about preferred supplier agreements and those. We've been down that track where we've had 200 workers on a site, but you're getting peanuts per hour off on that size of a contract, and that's kind of not us, to be honest. We prefer to be one of my cheeky consultants in West Auckland, I heard him on the phone one day. He was asked, what's the difference between Tradestaff and other agencies? And his reply was, that's easy, we're the most expensive. And so, but if you look, Scott, at today with record unemployment and all of those things, if we're not getting a good yield off each worker that we're placing, then we've got our rocks in the head. It's not about exploiting. It's just actually saying that we've got to value what we're doing, because in reality today we're operating, because of the shortage of workers and because of everything COVID related, today we're actually operating at probably 85% of the hours that we would have been 3 years ago. but our yield is probably 20% better.
Yeah, better business. So you think when you look back at those times, and this is what I want people to hear, because you hear a lot of people say, oh, GFC, it's going to be tough, or recessions, blah, blah, blah. But it's actually the forward planning. You actually spent some time thinking about the business and going, hey, I always look at where's the financial puck going? Like, where's it going? Let's get ahead of it. Let's be proactive.
Yeah. So I think the GFC did us a big favour. It didn't feel like it so much at the time, but like I say, there was some things that weren't working, and as a result of tougher times, they were stopped. We took the time also to implement our first database system and all of the stuff that went with it. We just had a bit of time, a lot more time. There were some staff who struggled in those days because suddenly they had to go and sell and they had to be out and about, whereas they'd got a bit used to sitting in the office, I guess. So our mantra at the time, and I remember with my management team, is just saying, let's not waste this good crisis. We want to be better at the end of it than what we went in. And my thinking at the time was that if we've got a slice of the pie, if the pie's getting smaller, let's make sure that at least our slice doesn't get smaller. But if we can, let's grow our slice. So as we were coming out of the GFC, we actually opened new branches in Queenstown, maybe Dunedin at that stage, Napier. We actually opened new branches, and we kind of attacked. When we started to see the light at the end of the tunnel, we started to attack. We opened new branches. We went quite hard at the market. We upped our marketing spend quite dramatically, thinking that when the market comes back, we'll be relevant. Yeah.
And that's key, right? Like, so that the mindset there, so that's obviously, where did you get that mindset from? Because that's playing offense. A lot of businesses play defense at that time, and they don't realize how that affects them down the line. So was that something you learned, something someone taught you, or was it just instinct? Where does the mindset come from there?
I have no idea.
Yeah, but you instinctively knew the time to attack, because a lot of people, when they hear words recession, they go backwards with their marketing. But you decided, hey, we're going to have a crack at this. Let's up it.
Well, look, I guess you could say the same around, what's happening now with COVID and the fact that, I like that it's quite hard.
Yeah.
Like, it is quite hard at the moment. There's no doubt. We're spending a lot more time. Me personally, I'm spending a lot more time with our new consulting staff, teaching them how we do good business, right?
Yeah.
We've got the time to teach them how to do good business, and we're push at the market. And, I have friends who say to me all the time, or acquaintances say, oh, you must be so busy, you must be flat out. All companies in New Zealand are desperate for staff. And I reply, well, we are too. We're like a pub with no beer, right? We've got no workers either. We're out chasing.
Yeah.
And so for all of, for the strength of our brand, for all the marketing we do, for how hard we work at that to try and employ people, I'd like to think that it's a whole lot harder for our competitors.
Yes.
I'd like to think it's a whole lot harder for startups.
Yeah.
And so, I'd be real happy if a few of them buggered off actually and exited the market, because that gives us an opportunity when we go back to something like normal times. It goes back, it allows us maybe to have a bigger share. So, in the last 2 years of lockdowns and all the nonsense, we've got immigration advisors on staff now. We've got 4 people working in our international team.
Yeah.
And that international team does nothing other than looking at people bringing people in from overseas. So, we've been in contact with literally thousands of people. We've got 400 or 500 who are waiting job orders from us now out of the UK and Ireland.
Wow.
And we've been working with those people for 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's made us no money for 2 years.
Yeah.
But that's investing in when it gets normal.
Yeah.
To be brutally honest, I thought COVID was only going to last 3 or 6 months. I maybe wouldn't have been quite so bullish if I'd known it was going to go for 2 years.
Yeah.
But by doing that, it means that now, we're going through a little bit of drama with Immigration New Zealand, because they're not as ready as we are.
Yeah.
But we're making 41 job offers to people to come to New Zealand today. So that's as part of them coming over, either coming to work in New Zealand for a period, or on some form of pathway to residency.
Yeah.
Because if we don't do it, the workers aren't here. If we don't actively chase that, then how do we grow? How do we satisfy our clients' needs? And I'd like to think that that's something that we can do now that we are this big corporate thing, that we've got the resources and the capacity to be able to work on that, so that when things get going good again, we're ahead of the game. It may well be that the economy falls to pieces and I've got all these people coming in from overseas and there's not so many jobs for them.
Yeah.
But we're used to that, right? Because that's what we did in 1996 and that's what we did in 2008. So,
you've learned along the way, right? And you put in those things into place. But also, I love what you're doing around, hey, you're not just sitting here and going, that's, you're employing new people and you're sitting there with them and giving them your knowledge, which I think, business owners, how you can filter down that knowledge right now. And this is why it's kind of why I wanted to create this podcast, is I want people to learn from people that have been through some of this stuff. Let's switch gears a little bit more. I want to talk about marketing and how important has it been to Tradestaff over the years. And where do you see it? Where does it come from when you first started to where it is now?
Well, I guess, what is marketing, I suppose? In the early stages, what it was about was actually getting the brand name out there. It was actually just telling the world that there was a business and this is what we did. It wasn't particularly sophisticated. Through a friend of a friend, I ended up doing some radio advertising in the early days, and I was quite nervous about that. So she used to actually come on and talk to me on the radio, and that was kind of how we got into that. And then from that, we probably, it was all about creating the brand, basically.
Yeah.
Whether it worked or didn't work, I've never really known, but basically it got to a stage in the first 10 years or so, everything we did was about getting the name out there. So we had, we sponsored rugby teams, we're Bay Plenty Steamers sponsor, major, front of jersey sponsor for 3 years. We big signs at Jade Stadium, race cars, everything. We did absolutely everything just to make sure the brand was out there and quite strong. That's changed quite a bit. Nowadays, I'm not so interested in that branding. There has to be an outcome from anything we do now. So a classic example would be we're the sponsor again for the second time of the World Softball Champs. So this year, the World Softball Champs in Auckland, we are the major naming sponsor for a World Championship, right? Which is pretty cool. Now, when we did it the first time, we did it for the exposure. Right? This time, it's all about a call to action. So the first thing that happens is that we go to the entire New Zealand softball industry and go, hey, we're sponsoring your sport. We're making this thing happen. If you want work, you've got to come work for us.
Nice.
Right? And all of the branding around that and some, we're doing a great radio promo at the moment with The Rock about winning a prize to go to New York. That promo is all about that. So people enter in the competition to go with the Morning Rumble to New York. They get a text back. They have to text the word job to a number. So they're texting job to The Rock. They then get an acknowledgement text back going, hey, thanks for entering. If you're looking for work, click here, and it comes straight to a URL on our website, which allows us then to try and register them. So the whole promo is simply about driving people to our website. Right? We get some branding as a result of it, but to be fair, if after 26 years of all the branding marketing we've done, if they haven't heard about us by now, then we failed.
Yeah, I think you made a good point early on, though. It's about relevancy, right? And that's where, if you look at your sponsorship with New Zealand Softball, becoming relevant in front of the people there, who is in and around that sport and who plays that sport is very important to your business. Especially in the likes of the South Aucklands and stuff like that. You have a lot of work that you can place for those types of jobs, right?
100%. Yeah, I mean it's a high participation sport. It's a family sport. And as you say, South Auckland, Pararua, Christchurch, a lot of softball centres, but again, they can all work for us. We would quite happily take them anytime. I
think it's a great alignment. Talk a little bit about radio. I know you on the radio quite a lot. You just mentioned The Rock. What are some of the things that you've learnt over the years about advertising there?
Well, when we first started, we were actually advertising to clients. So we're on things like, ZB and Radio Sport, and I think the most important thing is that you can actually you've got to be talking to someone, right? So who is your market? And in those days, in the early days, unemployment, still quite high, 6-7%. it was very much about saying to businesses, hey, if you just need a worker and need maybe just for a little while, then why don't you consider temping? Give Tradestaff a call. Now our market is exactly the opposite to that. All of our marketing, no matter what it is a call to action to say, if you're looking for work, any kind of work, contract Tradestaff, right? So that's a totally different market.
Yeah.
So, we've traditionally been on, places like Hodaki, The Rock, and those sort of probably 18 to 40-year-old male type markets. But we've got to the stage where we actually think that basically we've just about tapped that market. I mean, hearing from us forever. Same old message forever. Well, not, same call to action forever. So, we don't mind at all whether our workers are male, female, tall, short. We don't really care. There's a place for all of them. So, more recently, in the last couple of years, we've probably started to concentrate on things like the more female skewed stations. ZM. We do a lot with My FM, particularly again for that South Auckland influence. But also, if you've got a good relationship with the media companies, then they'll give you the stats of who listens and where listens and all that kind of stuff. Because we've been doing it for so long, 25 odd years on the radio, we get a few favours there in regards to some nice placements of our ads and stuff like that. But it is an ever evolving process. And we're nationwide, we're large enough, we have the capacity, we can go quite big at those campaigns. But I've often wondered, it's pretty interesting, I've often wondered whether it actually even works. I've been doing it for 25 years and I don't really know. But what I do know is that others who don't have anywhere near the market profile that we have. Yeah,
exactly. And I think that's the point, consistency of message, frequency of reach to create relevancy. I think it's so important. I talk about this all the time. Being consistent on your message, have frequency with the reach with the right people, and you become relevant. And over time, that grows and grows. And you've obviously seen that in the business, how it's growing out. A couple of things I wanted to talk about just to finish. You taught me something, and I think it's really, it was something about delegation, and I want to know if you can remember it. I can remember it, and I can remember the time that you told me, because it made such an impact. And now I literally teach my staff this about delegation.
Right. Just put me on the spot then. I'm guessing you're talking about a saying that I've used in the business and have done for a long, long time, which is essentially, what we want in our business, we want people to grow. We want them to see that there's a career path for them. But as you know, you sometimes get people in this world who will basically say, look, if it was, this business wouldn't survive without me. And so they kind of, they think the business revolves around them. And so I often we'll say something like, if you got hit by a bus tomorrow, do you think we'd close down? And they're like, oh, well, no. So my whole philosophy around that and those types of people is that if you can't be replaced, you can't be promoted.
Yeah.
Right?
What a gold saying.
So if you can't be replaced, you can't be promoted. So basically what we would say to anyone as they start to work through their career is that they should be looking to make themselves redundant. Now, I don't mean that you're leaving the company, I just mean you're moving on from that role to a bigger role. Because if we can't replace you in that role, then we can't promote you to the next one. And so some people struggle with that. Some people are surprisingly open to that because I guess they trust us, and I've seen people grow through our business before. But it doesn't matter where you sit in the sort of hierarchy, if you like, of our business, from going from a consultant to a senior consultant to a team leader to a branch manager to an area manager to whatever. If you've got aspirations, you have to be training the people below you and teaching the people below you to do your job, and preferably to do your job better than you do.
Yeah.
Having the courage to understand that allows you then to be promoted.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, then you're basically just filling a seat.
Yeah. What a great and beautiful mindset to give people coming into a business, though, knowing that, hey, actually you're safe. If you actually help people go through this process and replace, then you're going to be okay in this environment. I think it's a real mindset. And as soon as you told me it, I'd never really thought about that before. I'd never really, as a business owner, thought, hey, a lot of the times you hold on to some stuff, and it was like, wow, I've got an opportunity to teach someone else here now, and I've gone and taught that person, and that person's now teaching other people, and it's so free.
Yeah, well, and people say to me, oh, it all sounds fine, that all sounds wonderful and all that. But I've got, two things to say about that. Firstly, if you think about someone's career as like rungs of a ladder, right? If you're at number 2 on the ladder and you're making yourself redundant to go to number 3, that only works if number 3 is also looking to make themselves redundant and move up. And the ones who don't get past, right? So the ones who don't, they'll sit there in rung 3 and watch number 2 go to number 4 and become their boss. Because if they can't move it with those times, then they get left behind. But the other thing is that people say it always sounds fine. I remember I was speaking at a business lunch or something one day as a speaker, and someone said, "Oh yeah, but do you do that yourself?" And I said, "Well, if you actually really want to know the truth, yes, I've made myself redundant to an enormous extent, or I've had to reinvent what I do in the business."
Well, how about like what you did? You went to Italy for a whole year.
I went to live in Italy for a whole year.
Yeah.
And that meant that people had to be able to step up and do what I'd been doing previously.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I'd kind of handed it on already.
Yeah.
So we went to Italy, lived there for a year. I had next to no, very little, half a dozen contacts with the business the whole time I was away. The business had a record year, which was amazing. So there's two schools of thought there. Either I am totally useless or else I've got a really good business which manages itself. I will say that next year when I was back, before COVID, so we got back, not long before COVID, but that next year we actually had a better year again.
Yeah.
So, what it showed was that yes, the business can operate without me, but it also shows that I have got something that I can still add. And, my job today is, I'm kind of, chief cheerleader and navigator rather than the captain of the ship, if you like, And so a lot of my interaction now, I have very little client interaction, very little candidate interaction, and even to a degree, very little interaction with my branch management staff. That tends to be managed by Janice and our ops manager, Andy. My role tends to be more with the newbies. I've got this real thing, my favourite thing actually is hanging out with the guys who are new to market.
Awesome.
I like them young, 23, 24 years old, maybe, just looking for an opportunity, looking for a way to prove their true worth. And I love hanging out with them. I love watching their excitement as they understand a concept and they grow in the business. And, and that to me that's probably, I think, the most important thing I do in the company. It was pointed out to me recently, which had never occurred to me, what a big deal it was for someone who comes into a company at a young age and is looking to build a career, and they get to hang out with the owner of the company who's been doing this forever, And as I often say to them, I might not be the smartest guy in the room, but I'm one of the wisest because I've seen it all.
Yeah.
Right, I've seen it all in 26 years, and so I've probably forgotten more about this game than what most people know. And so the fun thing for me is chatting with them like I'm chatting to you, and hearing these things that come out of my mouth to my great surprise, and but then watching them grow as a result of that.
Well, the beautiful thing there, Kevin, is I've actually seen it because you have another business called Tradestaff Workwear, and my team have been involved in helping grow that. But you've actually, with Emma there, you've done exactly what you've just said. You've helped a young person's come in, given the opportunity, and you've mentored that person to now where she's making some changes in the business that it's just going like that. Some of the stuff she's doing.
She's amazing. Again, came in when she's 23. Without giving too much away, she'd basically worked in coffee shops, and now she's running a really successful workwear business, big online presence, and everything. She's amazing. It won't surprise you to know that on her 1 year anniversary, we went out for lunch. I sat down and said to her, right, we now need to make you redundant.
Yes.
And so, for her, we're looking to open more branches around the country of that business. And for us to do that, she has to get out of the frontline business and as it stands today. Because if she doesn't, we can't grow. Right? And so for her, her career path now is about replacing herself and then replicating herself as we grow. And she's
That's so good.
She's still only 24, 25.
Yeah. What an opportunity for young people to come work for Tradestaff to get that. That doesn't happen. I think, kudos to you for being open to that because, you've built leaders inside this business, right? And leaders build leaders, but now you're creating future leaders by getting in there. That's awesome. Hey, so before we just wrap this up, one thing I wanted to talk about, and something I know you as Tradestaff talk about it, and you're doing quite a bit in this space, is mental health. And I think, if you look at trades, it's a big deal, right? Mental health in New Zealand is a huge problem, and I always say you're either part of the problem or part of the solution. You guys are definitely part of the solution here. So let's talk about a few of the things that you're doing here, and especially you've got a new initiative that you're just kicking off as well with a young fella, Taylor, and what you're doing there. I think it's worth people knowing. There's not just the corporate side of this thing. There's actual real people and real issues that you're dealing with.
Yeah, well, I can't start to understand why we have the mental health problem that we have in New Zealand today. Maybe it's always been there. Maybe it's just more talked about now. But I've had close friends commit suicide this year, so it's it's pretty personal to us and has been for a long time. My family and my family and extended family have had issues with mental health. So I've seen it around a long time. I wish I understood it way back then better than I do now, right? I just thought they were a bit nuts, but now actually understanding that there's a lot more to it. The construction industry is a major area of concern regarding mental health, and if things were to slow down and that market was to get harder, I really genuinely fear for that. Impacts of outside influences like COVID and jib shortages and all of that kind of stuff, just horrific. So yeah, we've done a lot, I guess, that people wouldn't know about. We have a counselling service on tap, EAP, and that's available for all of our staff, our temporary workers, our clients and everybody. And what happens there, if there's anything that happens around trauma or if someone is having some difficulties, then we provide free counselling to those people.
That's awesome.
And it's anonymous free counselling. So my HR manager will get the word that someone needs it. There's a number handed on, and then I think there's 3 free sessions, and then subsidised after that. And we have no involvement in that whatsoever. We just get told that our person has used our service. So that's cool. We've been doing that. We've done a bit with Mike King. We made a donation to Mike at our 25th anniversary because he was a guest speaker at our anniversary. We've continued to have little fundraisers and do other bits and pieces for him. Why he hasn't just got money on tap to provide what he does, I couldn't start to understand. I don't know. It mystifies me and annoys me. We're just, we're always just looking at ideas that don't just pay lip service to things. So, young Taylor, he's amazing. He's actually the son of our HR manager, which is how we know him. He's an athlete, an extreme athlete. He'll do the coast to coast this year. He's got all the Tradestaff gear on. He looks pretty flash. But his whole thing is about raising awareness around mental health, and particularly about mental health issues in the construction workplaces. So he's doing some stuff in that space, with the aid of our sponsorship, I guess. I mean, the dude's incredible. He over Easter he ran, I think, 4 of the great walks in the weekend. So Kepler one day, and then whatever they are the next day. He ran 280 k's or something in 4 days. Just to get out there and spread the word, I guess. So there's always something going on, and I remember once sort of. Well, when Mike King spoke to us at our 25th, my instruction to him was, mate, this is a celebration of us being in business for 25 years. Don't wreck the room. And he was like, nah, mate, don't worry about it. I'll just stand up and tell them all the jokes. Don't worry, it's all going to be good. We absolutely destroyed us. I think, the whole place is in tears. We're all crying openly and particularly emotional. We had to stop everything for about an hour. We had activities. We had to just postpone those while everybody got their heads together. But the amount of people within staff who then spoke to us about the problems that they were having, or their husband or wife was having, or their children were having, and it completely blew me away. I mean, you're talking about over half the room are affected by a mental health problem themselves, or by family members or friends or whatever. And it was actually unbelievably cool, and probably one of the proudest moments I've ever had within the business, of watching everybody band together.
Yeah.
Watching someone say to one of their workmates, now I understand why you're like that. Now I understand, sorry, I'm part of this problem.
Yeah.
I never thought about it. You just need to tell me next time, right?
Yeah.
If I see the signs, I'm going to say to you, hey, you're right. Is it, And it was so cool to see the whole company kind of come together in that manner.
What an amazing conversation to have with all of the business, and giving them the freedom to have that conversation together. It's pretty powerful, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, it's I think the good thing about mental health today is that I think the stigma has gone, or is largely gone. If people have got a problem around someone saying they've got a mental health issue, then I think it's them that's got the problem.
Yeah, totally.
For me, I often, it's kind of a bit of a weird way to look at it, I suppose, but I often think of, if you come in here now and you've got a broken arm, I can see you've got a broken arm, right? But if you've got a sore back, you're the only one that knows you've got a sore back. I can't see it, but I've had sore backs, and I'm like, oh, you poor bugger, I know what that's like. That's terrible.
Yeah.
So then if you come in and you say, look, hey, I'm just having a bit of a problem here, mental health's not so good, you're the only one that knows that, right? So for me, I would tend to look at you if you told me that you were having a mental health problem today, the same as I would if you said you had a poor back today. Yeah. I'd be like, you poor bugger, what can we do? You're right.
It's the biggest lesson I learned in business. Someone said to me, how would you treat that person if they had a broken leg? And I went, oh my God. Yeah. Well, you'd pull the chair out for them.
That's
you'd
right.
make them sit down. You'd say, hey, they don't do anything. Yeah. And that was a massive, it was a smack in the face for me as far as how you should treat people with mental health. So.
Oh, look, and I think one of the classic instances of where we saw real things that we'd never experienced before was post-earthquakes here in Christchurch, when, I know people who were completely and utterly in control of their life. They were leaders. They were the rock that people went to, and then in business and family and stuff like that. And then with the trauma of 10,000 bloody earthquakes just smacking them over, basically they were broken because they were no longer in control. And I watched very good people change, in some instances dramatically, over a period of time, to where their confidence was just completely and utterly robbed. Because of an outside influence.
It was full on time.
It was unbelievable. Yeah.
Hey Kevin, this has been an amazing chat, and I really appreciate you taking the time to share with the audience your insights into Tradestaff. What does the next 5 years look like for Tradestaff and Kevin Eder? I know you're a big golf fan. You're looking to get the handicap down in the next 5 years, or you're still working in the business? What's your plans?
Well, the standard classic joke when it comes to golf is that my wife took up the game 10 years ago and is now a representative player at a scratch handicap. And
did she get a hole in one recently?
Yeah, she did. Yep.
Outstanding.
Thanks for bringing that up. It was the only thing I'd done that she had never done in golf. So, I'd probably spend more time caddying for her.
Nice.
I do play a bit, but I've gone from average to terrible. Basically I walk 18 holes so that I can hang out in the 19th really these days. Nice. Which is cool. What will happen with Tradestaff? Well, we'll look to grow workwear, obviously. I've got sort of irons and a few other fires as well with our piling business and a few other things. So that's starting to really turn into a really cool business. We're in expansion mode there. Tradestaff, we were looking to open new branches. Pre-COVID, I'd been to 2 new cities and looked at opportunity there. COVID stopped all that, and I was pretty pleased about that, to be fair, because I wouldn't have liked to have leased 2 buildings and then had them sitting empty for 2 years. Our international business is getting bigger. Like I say, we've added staff over the last year or so. That will become, I think, quite a significant business. Our Tradestaff global business, so we've got a business where we send people to the Pacific Islands and all over the place. We've got a big contract that could be long-term to Antarctica. We'll be sending a whole bunch of people down to Antarctica again this year for the 3rd year. That will grow. And then I guess the other thing, is that the transition of the business from the Kevin and Janice period. We've both been around a long time. We've got older. I think the exciting thing I think will be how the business looks when when Janice isn't sitting in the captain's seat and I'm not sitting in the navigator's chair.
Yeah.
You know, and that's exciting.
It is
We've
exciting.
worked hard for that, and you know, there'll be some talent come through. That we've been working on for some time, even though they might not necessarily be aware of that. And yeah, I mean, I think the next chapter is then Janice and I will probably, you know, form some kind of board and be at arm's length. But you know, we always say that that's going to be in 2 years or 5 years or whatever time. Right now, you know, we've got, we've got everything that comes COVID related in front of us. We want to get that right. You know, I think we always just want to get it right before we hand it on, and I don't know if that's going to be in 6 months or 6 years. You know.
Hey, look, exciting times though, because you have built those leaders, and I know, you know, from seeing some of them around that this business will be in good hands. So appreciate your time. I'm extremely proud to call you a friend and a business mentor. So it's been great talking to you today, and I look forward to seeing you on the golf course one day soon.
Cheers, mate. Good to see you.
Hi, Scolson here again. Hey, thanks for listening to the Marketing for Business podcast. Hey, we're on a mission to share these episodes with more business people, so please feel free to share the podcast. Head over to our website, www.getdigitalinfluence.com for more episodes, and we really appreciate you listening. Thanks for your time and have a great day.